think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
So, hey guys, we got some weird audio today because we're doing live.
Oh, live
Um,
in studio.
yeah, and we got two shout outs. We got a shout out for Marshall, who's currently at the NDP convention where they're electing their new party leader. Go NDP.
Good luck.
Yeah, and then D, friend of the podcast, D, I owe him an apology because I haven't really been incommunicado lately, but he and I were going to do concrete sometime in July because they're doing a new concrete series, so that'll be all right. Just wanted to get that administrative work out of the way.
Nice.
You know, I'm all business. We're always all business here.
Yeah, that's what we came for. I think so.
And yeah, speaking of business, let's get down to it. Here on the Extinction Agenda with James.
James and Chris.
The man on the internet most likely to yell into a mind control machine and then discover it hasn't been turned on yet. And today we're doing, it's actually kind of a surprise. We didn't realize this was going to happen, but James started reading Barry Windsor-Smith's Weapon X. And then I was like, wow, we could do Weapon X. And I was like, oh, it's good. It's so easy. There's no text. It's just pictures. And then like, wow, really wrong about that. I'd been a long time since I owned some of these original Marvel Comics Presents issues. I think the last two of them. And it's really funny because like in context, these comics, so they're 8-page backups in Marvel Comics Presents between issue 72 and 84 between March and September 1991, which makes these comics 35 years old. But after this, there's Paul Galassi art. There's fucking Steve Ditko does a Captain America story that just looks like little toy soldiers fighting. There's a real disparity of art, but then you also get some John Byrne and you get Brian Stelfreeze, I think, on something. And so it was meant to be a showcase for shitty stories, but also stories by like established talents. Like early on, Doug Mensch and Paul Galassi did a story, if I remember correctly. And they just got like the A-level talent at the time to do showcase works, right? This is late in the game. Issue 72 is pretty late in the game for this to have emerged. And I'll stop talking in a second, but this emerged just because Barry Windsor-Smith started drawing something, and then he went to the Marvel offices and he was like, "I've got this thing, what do you think? We could just put it in." And they had to wrangle it a little bit because it's a little extreme, and they tried not to make it part of Marvel Comics Presents because it was so good. But the editor at the time said like, you just want me to do shitty Wolverine comics then? So they relented and then they released it as a trade paperback, and it's a fucking classic. This comic's a big deal. Had you ever read it before, Chris?
No, I hadn't. It's a lot. It has so much text that it tricked me momentarily into thinking that Chris Claremont actually wrote it. But once you get through that and kind of like sit with it a little bit, then you like process how the art works together with it. It is pretty amazing.
And
This is the I've read it before, but I maybe even had some issues in the past, but this is the first time I read it as a sort of like a whole work, and I got the same one you got, James. I got the deluxe edition, which was this like chintzy kind of like paperback that still costs $40 because they know what they got. They know what they got. Thank you, Marvel, for continuing to fuck us so that you could barely sell anything in print at all. I just the color palette's so good, and you can see all of Barry Windsor-Smith's pencils, and it's just like a fever dream. It's like a neon fever dream from like a nightmare world. And I was like, I only read a few pages of it, and I messaged it to our chat. And I was like, I don't know, guys. Like I think there's meat on this. And yeah, and then that's where I chimed in anyway.
Yeah, and I think like I obviously we'll get into the art and that kind of thing, but I prefer this as a Wolverine origin story.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Jonas, it like fucked us up huge. Like
yeah,
not to just republish this. Like yeah, we don't need anything else.
yeah, and it's not even really an origin story. So another bit of trivia is that Barry Windsor-Smith did not view this as an origin story for Wolverine. He just wanted to zero in on something because he didn't. He was a British is a British comics creator, and I think he's rather close to Chris Claremont, and he was like, if I thought that this was me trying to overwrite something that Chris Claremont was doing, I would not do it. And there's a fun little bit of trivia in this that we'll get to later as we go through it. The Yeah, he just wanted to like this is James. You already said this. This is so monsters.
It's
It
yeah, it's the same story.
yeah, kind of. Yes, actually, I didn't. How so? Like,
Well,
what was
both are a Frankenstein narrative of like
Yeah,
a subject that's been tortured and like sort of like provoked into the state, and Monsters just gives you more of like a war story background to
yeah.
that, and like explicitly links it with Nazism. But like, is this not coming out of the idea of Nazi science? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like it fits into the MK Ultra
Yeah.
so forth. Like the professor in this is really interesting. Like, why is he bald and the professor?
He looks like an. I took it as like he's like some sort of nightmare version of Charles Xavier. And actually, there was actually a concern among editorial I read that they were concerned that people might think that it's Professor X, and like it might alter how people approach the like wrote the series or approached it.
Mhm.
Um, but like even to me, I guess like my head canon, like I was like, okay, like he's gone through this thing, his memories are distorted by the end of it. I'm almost wondering if there's some sort of like psychological integration, like maybe this isn't even what the guy looked like, but just sort of like he's made some sort of link.
I think that would work. When you say you're talking about Wolverine.
Wolverine,
Yeah,
yeah,
like after the fact. I think that would work if the at the beginning of the story we didn't see the quote unquote professor character like building his team.
that's true.
Um,
Forget that.
the Yeah, I like that. Where I didn't really like you kind of have to slow down with this book because it moves at such a clip, even though it doesn't. Like it's just one thing kind of happening. But the professor is like there's this mercy killer quack, the Dr. Cornelius. And so later on in the book, he's gonna be like, I got blackmailed into this essentially. Like so he's like this physician on the run, this Dr. Cornelius, who's the henchman to the professor.
When you say mercy killer, like is this like a Doctor Dvorakian?
I think so.
Oh,
I think
that's
so.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's right at the beginning.
I missed that.
Yeah, malpractice suits on the rise and that kind of thing. And he's looking at, and yeah. And then Hines, she used to work for NASA. She's the female assistant character. And these are our three villains, essentially. And the professor is a cackling villain. And Hines is actually seems like a really good person, even though, and then the Dr. Cornelius or whatever is, he's just a reluctant super doctor of some sort. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't quite make sense.
pliable.
kind of. Yeah, exactly. He's just kind of like along for the ride, but seems to be like powerfully manipulated.
These panels on like the three across the top there, where he's like kind of like falling under the sway of the professor, and like his face is increasingly shadowed.
Oh,
Very interesting. I'll explain. I need your trust, Doctor.
oh, that's right. He tells him about.
They're like they're the ego, like
Yeah,
being
that's on page
integrated.
32, and he
Yeah,
says just when he finally goes blackout, he goes, "I trust you."
yeah,
Yeah,
That's when everything's basically
yeah. It's so
goes more.
expressionistic.
Well,
Like
it's a big build up, right? Everything goes more and more sideways. But I think if you were going to do it as an origin story, you could easily have folded in old Logan war stories or whatever you wanted. I know maybe he didn't
I
intend it
think.
to be, but to be as ballsy as to write a story that ended up being the origin of the adamantium
Hmm.
ends up and then have it be this quality of art and writing ends up being the canon origin, like birth of the Wolverine. Like you could be say whatever you want about it, but that's what he did, whether it was by accident or not.
Mhm.
And I don't think anyone accepts anything else. I
No,
don't
no.
read that toilet bowl Kluber. shit and think anything of it. It's like that's like the Bone Claw Wolverine. I saw a few issues of that at the comic store when we were out today.
Yeah.
I looked at it and they had like the animal Bone Claw Wolverine. Like people literally are very comfortable taking 50 issues of the Wolverine and putting them directly into a fucking shredder. That does none of that exists in canon in anyone's fucking minds.
Yeah.
I'm very
You
comfortable.
can't, yeah, you can't do that. If you write shit, people disregard it. If something great rises up, then it gets held to that standard. And this is what this ended up being, is the birth of Wolverine. Like,
I love the weirdness of the explanation of the claws in this. Like it's almost like a
Accident.
yeah, and like a Freudian like something like coming through. Like the professor's basically saying like, oh no, like he's a beast, like in his heart, like
Mhm.
and in his soul, and like that's like when the I forget what the Cornelius says, like, oh no, it's like it's spikes. It's like, no, it's claws. Haven't you listened to anything I've told you?
Mhm. I do think that this actually does fill a significant amount of backstory, but it does so in the most elegant and simple way possible. You just have to kind of read this text here on page 7. You know, like they're talking about the retiree. He's always referred to as the retiree due to violent nature, retiree extreme caution suggested. So he's got some sort of like background in something, right? And then they're like, we should let alternative measure dismissal from service with standard pay distributed over a 3-year period, violent nature of retiree, extreme caution. Then there's these ideas, critical wounding of several staff, blah, blah, blah. And that's really all you need to know. I think, we said this with the Joker as well. Like the more you know, the less you get.
Mm.
Um, and the idea that he was a fucking recluse falling apart, because I guess he just learned he's a mutant, or that other people realized he's a mutant. Like that, I think that's the issue. And so like now he's on the outsides. And
Yeah.
I love these images of like they're experimenting on the monkey as they're slowly coming to get him. There's just this density of panels on this. This is wild. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But some of them are like L-shaped, and then some of them are like continuations. Um, yeah, storms coming.
Whose broken teeth do you think these are?
That's the monkey.
The monkey. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Okay. So like, yeah, I see. I see
yeah.
it now. It looks like a beard, but it's yeah, the monkey face. Um, there's this theme that of like apocalypse and revelation that gets worked. Like there's a real metaphysical. Honestly, like my main thought about this is like it's very Catholic. Like it's Passion of the Christ. It's Catholic mysticism.
Oh,
And spending my nights at the prophecy. It's for fallen Christians, and this is sort of like before he gets captured, some sort of like missionary or something like that, and then you get this prophecy as part of the apocalypse. Did you know that for the fallen? So yeah, this very early you get this theme introduced of like a fate or like sort of like a some sort of like preordained and for Logan, and it's actually brought out. We have a log too. They have this conversation about it, Hines and Cornelius, but.
was it like a death and rebirth? Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
so this is a good time to bring up this little bit of trivia. So this is from Wizard Magazine, 1996. They're interviewing Barry Windsor-Smith about this, and he said, after I created several Weapon X stories, I had a conversation with Chris Claremont in which he told me that he'd always intended for Apocalypse to be the villain behind the adamantium experiment. For no reason other than courtesy to Chris, I devised the situation where the professor in the story was taking his orders from a higher up,
Uh,
um, over the phone. So
that
it's Apocalypse. It's
it makes more sense,
Yeah.
especially like the yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And then you get he's kind of like putting it there, yeah, yeah, and when the professor's on the phone with him, like I'm not like this other rabble, you should know that,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
that is an old school thing too, to have like Apocalypse making super mutants or trying to make horsemen
Hmm.
sort of his thing. Like if there's a mutant that can survive this, then he'd be more fit than others or whatever. You can
Yeah, yeah,
you dance around with that all you want.
yeah.
that's perfect.
And Claremont at the time, and we've talked about this. He had this lead up, like this is still 1991, so he's not kicked out of the X-Men office yet. So he's still been writing for 16 years, and probably imagining he's going to write for like 16 more years. And he had a story in which Wolverine was going to die. and by issue 300 or something like that, and Apocalypse would have been involved, and Shadow King, and blah blah blah. And this, this would have dovetailed really nicely. And instead, we got, fucking Bone Claws and No Nose and all that bullshit. Fucking Scott Lobdell nonsense. Um, I'm stealing what I'm about to say next from another podcast that I'd listened to like decades ago. But I just wanted to like comment upon how fucking weird the text boxes are. Here's a standard Wolverine being experimented upon text piece. Equalize, feed, impede, feed back up, channel, balance coming, feed, steady. Cardio-tac Miss Hines, rising rapidly, sir. Feed, steady. And you just get page after page of that shit. It's very strange. Like, it's not something that you could easily get away with under other conditions.
No, it's a torture. It's a torture thing, and it's to build tension, and it's to move your eyes around It's for me. It looks like it's to move my eyes around the artwork. It's to move my eyes around the torture scene.
Yeah.
To see his body, to see the leads going into his body, to see the fucking horror pages, and they do it. He does it a lot with a lot of his text, I noticed. And even when you see that skeleton scene, that's on page 40, I think. What have you done to me? That's when I started feeling the Frankenstein vibe as well, like you were saying, Rev, where I was like, this is just like a nightmare, like a monster creating a monster, and they gag at that later in the end. You're the monster.
Yeah.
When he finally gets a hold of the professor or whatever, but and then they humanize him by having him not kill what's her name?
Hines?
Yeah. But that's it. It's only just like the most minor of humanizations too, because he's been tortured to the worst effect. So when he does finally get near her, he's just like, I don't need you. You're not my intended like person to kill.
Yeah.
And that's as much empathy as she can get out of him, even at that point, which was very cool. That was near the end. Sorry, I skipped him.
No, it's fine. And it's also totally fair. I just okay, so included in this edition is the cover of issue 205 from May Uncanny X-Men 205, May 1986. And like, it's all already there. Like this Wolverine, all these, I don't know what it is about these Kirby lines. Because there's very like how Kirby with the Omega effect or whatever, you draw those. Same thing going on here with these hordes and shit that's going into Wolverine's body. And it's like he just kind of caught the bug at that moment. Like, I don't know enough about Barry Windsor-Smith's old Brian Smith. I don't know enough about his artistic trajectory and what his fetishes and weird shit is, but I got a sense of it. Definitely here, like he doesn't it's all the male body being severely violated, and just these tubes and spikes, and this was very difficult to process when I was 11. I didn't know what I was looking at.
Oh God, yeah.
No,
I remember seeing parts of this. Like I said, I think I even had some issues of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember it just being a nightmare. And I remember just like, for whatever reason, maybe it's the same thing that Trauma loves me aliens,
Mm-hmm.
that it just like stayed with me. I was like, oh man, I love the Wolverine, but like, why? I don't know. Maybe it's because of sort bad mojo from reading those early issues.
Yeah.
Look at that panel on page 40 with the skeleton, like the spikes coming out. But like in the third panel in that, like the teeth are like, I don't even know what's happening. Like the teeth are like the bone is pliable and like kind of like shifting to like the teeth are on a cheek. Hurting, like just like to violate sort of the fundamental like structure of matter, just like it really reinforces those points. Like it looks awful.
And it's all within his mind at this point, like because they're somehow projecting his mind onto and you're just like, oh Christ.
Yeah. They're talking about that a little later. I want to say it's page 54 when they're doing like they're doing autopsy work on him while he's still conscious.
Oh
And they're
yeah,
like, oh yeah, he can feel and he's still conscious, but we've got him like physically sedated. And
yeah,
he's just like moaning on the table. "Ugh,"
And
and
that
blood's like
Thorazine in
leaking
him,
out
they're
of
like,
his mouth, and they're saying all this god awful shit, and they're vivisecting him.
yeah.
And it's just like you say, this isn't something that kids should have been
no,
processing or exposed to.
that like little like sarcophagus that they have him in as
Oh
kind of a
yeah,
wire
that.
thing. It's like literally like looks like an Egyptian mummy or something like that, but like just wrapped in wire. There's this progression, like, and I think the professor even says it, like man, machine to weapon, and like there's gonna be phases of this as they sort of like reform him.
Yeah. Uh, and yeah, I think you're right about the sarcophagus thing, the wire. Like it's like the choice of imagery in this. I don't know what it ultimately. I think maybe one of the things it definitely amounts to is like there's those images of him like he's struggling against the bonds or whatever. Like he's nude. I think it's earlier than
Yeah.
this.
What percentage of this comic is he clothed at all?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what percentage is like just like kind of S&M? Probably
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. Um,
The comics code there on page 51 may avoided us getting a full frontal of the hog.
There was actually like again another bit of trivia or whatever. There was fights at Marvel Comics like with the editor or whatever, and like they had to go back to Barry Windsor-Smith and like you can't draw that much thigh, like that kind of thing. And so he just like and they were like, well, I think he solved it by just drawing more bubbles or something like that. Um,
I love the like just as a theme, like just watching the disintegration of the comics code. Like
yeah. Um, one thing to keep in mind as we're going through this is like Barry Windsor-Smith is most famous for having illustrated Conan comics for a long time with Roy Thomas, and like I know he did that Wolverine story earlier, but this is very much it was there was a lot of Conan in that earlier story, 205 or 206 or whatever I said it was, but and then it's definitely here as well. I love this barbarian man, which is another sort of fetish that Barry Windsor-Smith seems to have. Uh, I don't know, maybe fetish is a preoccupation. Fetish is the wrong word.
Yeah, I have the same one.
Yeah.
Love me some Conan.
Yeah.
it's just one thing that is stupid in this is like the battery pack that they have to give him, like to like power his like mind control.
Yeah.
Like, they constantly upset, even when like they're trying to take him out at the end, like shoot the battery, like it's like a video game boss. Take out the batteries.
It's kind of interesting though that you get more of a sci-fi thing to it. Like there's a world in which Doctor Doom was the person who was behind this,
Absolutely.
and it was using my Doom rays, I control you, that kind of thing.
That would work.
The helmet and everything, like actually, and it's very Cyclops, his helmet, and I don't really have much to draw from that other than I think of the rivalry between him and Jean, or him and Cyclops, Psych over Jean. But you really couldn't take this story and like plug that on top of it. But
No, it feels like a lot of it operates like just unconsciously and like sort of like with this imagery and sort of like suggestion.
it might be actually more RoboCop then.
Yeah, of course, 91.
Yeah. Uh, it's difficult to. Oh, actually, at the end, we do get Wolverine back. Like when he finally breaks free and he's like, chomp, all that stuff. Um, I forget where it is now, but he does call them chump at some point, even if it's in the. What do you think of the weird? I think this comic went on for too long. If I had one criticism of it, that's a long time, like to run this issue, and they even go through actually it was all a dream. Oh,
Yeah. Although I like that twist, that actually threw me. Yeah.
I didn't like it.
What I liked about it is that like the professor was so like beyond comic book villain in a lot of this.
mhm.
And then to see it pulled back, that is sort of an exaggeration, that the psychodrama that's going on is they try to condition Wolverine, made me respect the writing a little bit more.
The thing that bothered me about it, or that bothers me about it, is that ultimately, so he kills in a really dramatic fashion with the get with the molten shit falling down Alien 3 style. Um, and it's very dramatic and it's very exciting. And then all of a sudden, it didn't happen, which fine, I could live with. But then he kills the professor again anyway
Mhm.
within another 8 pages. And so I was like, well, why did we need to do that?
Yeah,
What does that
I
bring to this?
I think that was my big hang up on the whole twist
Mhm.
was that they did the twist, and I thought this is cool, this is psychedelic. I like pages 108 through like 111 where they did like sort of like
Oh,
a
inside his mind.
yeah, like
Oh
sort of like
yeah.
the psychic portal or whatever you were going through.
Yeah.
And then you were back to fighting the Bengal tiger and all the guys are still in the mud room talking about the thing. That's when the twist really hits you and you're like, "Oh." But then to have it undone,
Yeah.
to have the exact same ending only with the soft touch
Mhm.
Yeah.
comparatively to the fantasy ending
Mhm.
and just have him wander out into the snow it was very anticlimactic. It was for me.
Yeah. You could have both.
What all depended
Well, I
on.
guess you get both, but
Yeah.
Well, that's not quite what I meant, but yeah.
I love the absolute. I mean, this is body horror, like the whole thing, but like that in that passage of darkness, like he's just like developing spikes everywhere, and he's like just like this bramble man. It's really cool.
And there's a through line. So in the beginning, room shared bloodlust horror. Shit. So I think it's around the time when he's talking about hell is coming. Like all that hell is coming talk comes full circle in his psychodrama, this really like watercolored, this is like very blue, you said it was neon. This is a very neon book. Brian Windsor-Smith. Barry Windsor-Smith's. I'm just gonna call him Brian from now on. He has a pastel color palette, which is interesting. But that's just me falling off track. I think that this closing psychodrama bit is a callback to the beginning psychodrama bit when he's with the apocalypse and the hell and stuff.
Mm.
Because he's worried about fear. They say something like his ultimate issue is fear of himself. Actually, I think that's something the professor says, and that gets illustrated here. And so all the more reason for you to think like this would be a great end to the comic.
Yeah.
And then he fights the Bengal tiger, and like it looks cool. It looks fucking very cool. But to what end? He already fought a grizzly bear.
yeah, and I think that's one of the other things about the tiger too was like I don't know. I'm not like an animal kind of like excited about the bear versus the elephant type of guy. So like nothing about a tiger screamed more dangerous than 85 fucking military guys with submachine guns.
Well, you
Yeah.
get
So like
it
it's so tame. Like
Yeah.
it should have come before the final battle.
I like the wolf
And
part
it's
though.
just the wolves
But
part
it's
is
cool.
Yeah, we like rub them. Basically, they just like put them out there, like rip them with blood, so that the wolves are like lambs.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. See, and then they let up. They let up to the bear. Then they teased the tiger, and then they put the tiger after something more dangerous,
Mhm.
and in the human element. And then I just thought, wow, what are we? And I feel like things were out of order a little.
I do wonder. Sorry, I do wonder if maybe you're right. Like I do get that impression. That, like because Brian Windsor-Smith, he like he was just sort of operating completely outside the bounds. Like no one asked him to draw all this, right? And so like he's getting notes and stuff. So maybe it literally is out of order, just through to editorial something, right? Well, like I don't know. I feel that they would bring that up in interviews if so, but I'm willing to accept that that's a possibility, and they just made the best of what they had. Sorry, what were you going to
Yeah,
say?
no, so two things. Like some of the animal stuff is meant to. There's that theme of like the beast, and the professor's projection onto Logan, and that sort of battle of like who's human or he's humane. When they do the wolf thing, they like the professor's like, oh yeah, let's watch him be a beast, and like, oh, do you have any more wolves to throw at him? Like, and they're just like, yeah, and like even Heinz is like, can we just stop the experiment and like save the animals? He's like, no, let the animals save themselves. So like I think that's part of why he keeps throwing animals in the way. And when you mentioned the the opening matter and the full circleness of it.
Mhm.
I think if I was going to defend the ending and that sort of like double murder of the professor, hell has come, and like what is hell but just like the eternal like the thing happening over and over again to you, and like that's really like what this whole comic has been. And again, that kind of like ties into my sense that it's a very kind of Catholic text.
And so two things to tie into that. One is the lamb's blood over him, with the wolves or whatever, like the Lamb of God, etc. I know that's maybe a stretch.
No, I don't think so.
And the fact that at the end, it starts like basically the bubbles of his fish tank, his torture tank, become the bubbles of the snow. And he enters into like this pure sort of heavenly realm, but it is not heavenly. Like he's not in a great spot when we leave him here. He's basically going to go off to be the Wendigo or something.
Yeah.
Um, which I don't know. I just think getting back to what you said, James. The reason everybody turns back to this is because like the Wolverine that we grew up with, the one that like doesn't quit and has seen the worst shit and is the toughest motherfucker that you're ever going to encounter, even if he gets clocked every once in a while. This is an origin story of that attitude. Like whatever he was before this is the story of like how we got the canonical head that we know and love.
Yeah, I think that's it, is that when you're writing your Wolverine and you want him to be the best and the meanest. I didn't think of it that way, but that's just it. Is like, how did he become the greatest killer? Why is he more ferocious than anyone else in a fight? Why is he more dangerous than even your tactical team of X-Men, like at any given time? It's because of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they haven't been through this, and
Yeah.
like,
And you're right, because like the 19 whatever like hundreds stuff like doesn't even begin to touch on that. Like it's like why every second of that story I was asking myself, why are we telling that? Why are you telling? I was never asking this with Weapon X. So it's like I know exactly what's going on here.
get it. Well, because he has a masochism to him, as we understand Wolverine. Like in our era of Wolverine, like I couldn't say how much this is around nowadays because I don't. The last time we read Wolverine was for with Benjamin Percy or whatever, with the Juan Jose Rip or whatever, and that wasn't your masochist Wolverine. I think that version of Wolverine got toned down because like, oh, he's reformed, he's better or whatever. And like, well, then you didn't make him better when you did that. We really like the fact that he's like a weird Mel Gibson fucko.
Yeah, well, the Ben Percy stuff too is like he was still a butcher.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just you like, yeah, exactly. Well, let's say everything's toned down, but everything's toned down.
Yeah. I think the best version of Wolverine for me is the one that is struggling with, as a consequence of his trauma and his own mutant animalistic nature, is constantly trying to find the man within inside of him. And you can, he has meditative techniques and this, that, and the other thing. And I know this is kind of hypocritical because actually, no, it's not hypocritical but I do usually point it out with the Punisher. They whitewash his violence with, his protective nature over young children. With Wolverine, they whitewash his sort of masochism and fucked up nature he always like takes care of younger girls on the team. He's cool and he doesn't try to sexually assault them or anything like that. He's genuinely trying to be a mentor.
Yeah, it's like a dad thing, like, or even just like that sort of like, the like you're even a bit like annoyed like that you have to like deal with this person, but like like fine, I'll take you under my wing sort of thing. And it always comes off really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think you're like this like even I agree with that as the best version of Wolverine. And I think that this gives us exactly those emotional beats of like it's all about like him, how far can you bring him into the savagery? What can he retain? And like it is that like the thing with Hines, like and maybe that shadows a little bit, like sort of like that side of him that's maybe protective of women particularly. He's just please, I don't like pain.
That's right. Yeah. That's pretty legit, though.
Yeah, oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
I
Yeah.
can't stand pain. Kill me quick.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
with her.
I think also like it's something about Wolverine. It's not just that Wolverine's battling his own fears or his own animalistic nature. Like they're literally trying to turn him into a machine. Like he's ensconced in I don't know the rotten military industrial complex of civilization. And he's ultimately battling against that stuff too in order to try and maintain himself. He's basically an M16 that walked out of the garage and said that like no more for me. I only shoot at good people. Um, that kind of thing. And that can get a little lost in all of this, I think. But with what we get later, I think it's very obvious in this book. Uh, yeah. The Catholic thing. Sorry, like I'm not challenging you, but I just want to hear a little bit more about that. Like what is he like Christ?
I think so. Yeah, there's a lot of there are positions where he's. I mean,
Okay.
that's something they're playing with. But like when he's strapped to the table, like in a cross form, and
Yeah, we see it in one of the covers.
pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and Jane put a finger on it. It's like the death and rebirth. It's the, can you come back and be redeemed? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right
absolutely.
there. The cover to issue 72, which is the first issue of the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's just
He's
like,
got the
you know,
crown.
Yeah. Well, the crown of thorns and shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that passion of the Christ thing. Like, you know, you suffered, you've been tortured for this, and like you come back and like he redeems, I guess, his own humanity and like become a figure that rises above it.
This was a fold out cover. I
Oh,
remember this. Sorry, it's a 2 page. The last issue, 84. It's just a 2 page of him like kind of like born, right? It's just all covered in viscous and childlike and yeah. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Like this is a hell of a work and a classic, like up there with. It's not in the same. It has the qualities of a Dark Knight Returns, in which it is like sort of a complete revision of, but at the same time not like it's just like here's everything you know about this character, but I'm gonna give it a different attitude and a different sheen. And I think even in the color palette, right? Like I think there's a lot between this and Lynn Varley's colors over at DKR.
Do you know what my favorite part of all this is?
What's that?
It's I'm gonna swing back to it. It's X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Hmm.
It's having the balls at editorial
Mhm.
to be like, holy fuck, Marvel wants to make movies of our X-Men characters. Let's write our own story of Wolverine's origin, even though there's a fucking awesome one.
Mhm.
And let's put that into a film that sucks the bag and a comic that sucks so bad that people want it to fucking go away forever, even though you had one of the best artists in the market do it.
Yeah.
It was written by my asshole.
Dr. Cornelius, how is our patient?
Could be better, Professor. He put up some resistance when our boys picked him up last night.
Is he damaged?
Nothing serious.
Then begin the adamantium feed.
Feed initiated. Steady. Cardio-tac higher than expected. Suffusion enacting. Cardio-tac rising. Incredible. The feed is impeded. He's resisting, sir.
Adjust the feed accordingly.
Adamantium feed is compensating, but I've never seen anything like this.
It appears we chose well, Cornelius.
Adamantium reservoirs drained, sir. Absorption process completely.
And our dear Logan?
Why not ask him yourself?
A splendid idea. Logan, can you hear me? I shall take that as a yes. You really should be proud, you know. You are the first. Your skeleton has been infused with a rare metal called adamantium. Fascinating substance, virtually indestructible. Your bones should now be unbreakable.